In any walk of life, people make mistakes when they're at work. It's what makes them human. Believe it or not, actors are humans too. Even the actors playing superheroes are prone to making mistakes, and those mistakes can often come at the most unfortunate of times, which actually makes them funnier to see. In this video, we'll look at 10 funny bloopers from serious Marvel movie scenes.
You're not one of them.
Kurt Russell, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Before he turned out to be an even bigger jackass than we were led to believe from what Yondu said about him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the coming together of Kurt Russell's ego with his son, Chris Pratt's Star-Lord, was initially quite heartwarming. However, during one of their early bonding sessions by a campfire in 2017's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Ego was talking up Star-Lord's achievements and sounding extremely proud of his son, when Russell made an error that somewhat ruined the moment. He was explaining that, even where he was from the beyond the edge of the known universe, everyone had heard of Star-Lord because of how he managed to hold an Infinity Stone in his bare hands and save the universe from Ronan the Accuser. However, Russell mistakenly referred to Star-Lord as Star Wars.
We've heard tell of the man they call Star Wars. We've heard of the... Yeah, Star Wars. He's all...
Something he apparently did on several occasions during the filming of the movie. When you're trying to get the point across that everyone has heard of somebody, it's safe to say that you're not exactly helping your argument when you don't even know his name yourself. Still, it's Kurt Russell. We'd happily let that guy get away with pretty much anything. Scarlett Johansson, Captain America Civil War. When it comes to making comic book movies, a lot of stunt performers are obviously used in certain scenes, but the actors playing the superheroes in said movies often have to learn certain skills too, and that can include the handling of weapons, because a lot of superheroes use them. Captain America has his shield, Wonder Woman has her lasso, Batman has his batarangs, Thor has his hammer, Hawkeye has his bow and trick arrows, Blade has his sword, and Black Widow has her electroshock baton. Just to provide you with a handful of examples. In order to make their characters look genuinely threatening, it's important that the handling of said weapons is done with a high degree of skill and a major level of seriousness. That means when the weapons are handled incorrectly, it can look very silly and ruin the tone of any given scene. In 2016's Captain America Civil War, when Black Widow was part of Tony Stark's pro-Sokovia Accords team, Scarlett Johansson was trying to look deadly when pulling out her batons in preparation for a fight, but it all went horribly wrong for her. It ended up looking very goofy, but at least Miss Johansson saw the funny side of her mistake.
You entered the astral dimension.
What?
Tilda Swinton, Doctor Strange. 2016's brilliant Doctor Strange movie saw the titular character, Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange, desperately seeking out the help of Tilda Swinton's all-powerful sorceress character, the Ancient One. He required her assistance in his attempts to fully regain the use of his hands, which were, of course, the tools of his trade as a neurosurgeon, after they were badly damaged in a high-speed car accident in New York. Upon finding the Ancient One in Kamar Taj, Strange inadvertently became embroiled in a war between two factions of masters of the mystic arts. In one scene in the movie, following a brutal battle that saw Strange, the Ancient One, and Karl Mordo facing off against Caecilius and his zealots, Swinton's character attempted to give Strange a lecture on various matters, including that of his large inflated ego. It was quite a wordy lecture, which resulted in Swinton forgetting her lines and babbling a load of absolute nonsense, before she finally gave up completely and resorted to swearing.
But every miracle, every medical miracle, perpetuated the illusion that inflated your ego, perpetuated the delusion that you can it. What do I say?
It's hilarious seeing an Oscar-winning actress and consummate professional like Swinton getting so worked up that she says the F word. I'm pretty sure we can all relate to that, however. Am I right, or am I right, viewers?
The things that are about to come to light, people might just need a little old-fashioned.
Clark Gregg, The Avengers. The violent and brutal death of Clark Gregg's character, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson, in 2012's The Avengers was, without a doubt, one of the saddest moments in comic book movie history. Loki killed him by tricking him into thinking the Loki he was looking at was real, when it was really just an illusion, then coming up behind him and sticking the sharp end of his scepter through his torso. It was the movie's defining moment, as it brought the otherwise divided titular team together in order for them to avenge Coulson's death and save the Earth. Of course, his death would later be revealed to be a sham, as he was resurrected to be the main star of television's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But that's another story. The fact is, it was indeed a sad and serious moment that saw a very likable and popular character mortally wounded, but that didn't prevent a pretty funny blooper from coming out of it. In one attempted take, as Gregg fell to the ground, his leg appeared to kick out involuntarily, which didn't look right at all in the context of the scene. That resulted in Gregg swearing, getting up, and insisting the scene be shot again. Cobie Smulders, Captain America the Winter Soldier. 2014's Captain America the Winter Soldier isn't just a great comic book movie, it's just a great movie, period. It's a political espionage thriller as good as any movie that's been given that label in the past, but with comic book movie characters in it. The plot sees the evil Hydra organization infiltrating the heroic S.H.I.E.L.D. organization and attempting to execute a plan that would see millions of potential threats to their evil empire killed mercilessly by 3 helicarriers linked to spy satellites. The likes of Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, Nick Fury, and Maria Hill join forces to put a stop to that plan by infiltrating all 3 helicopters and replacing the targeting equipment with that of their own. While explaining the plan, Cobie Smulders, who was playing the aforementioned Maria Hill in the movie, did something that is considered to be an absolute no-no in the world of movie making. She looked directly into the camera.
I need to link all 3 carriers for this to work. I got confused with my eyeline. I think I looked directly into camera.
I don't care. You just forgot the line. Now you're trying to make up some other
During her attempts to explain herself, Samuel L. Jackson, who was playing the aforementioned Nick Fury, humorously suggested that was just an excuse because Smulders had actually forgotten her lines. And who are we to argue with Samuel L. Jackson? If he says Smulders forgot her lines, she forgot her damn lines.
Raven.
That's not my name.
Jennifer Lawrence, X-Men: Days of Future Past. In X-Men Days of Future Past, the plot of the 2014 movie was that Bolivar Trask's company, Trask Industries, had developed an army of powerful and highly adaptive robots called Sentinels that were designed specifically to wipe out all of mutant kind. With mutants on the verge of extinction, Kitty Pryde sent Wolverine's mind back in time into his younger body in 1973, with the aim of preventing Trask's assassination at the hands of Mystique, because that was the event that triggered the creation of the Sentinels. In 1973, Wolverine made contact with the younger versions of a number of mutants he knew in the future, including the likes of Professor X, Beast, and Magneto. Magneto's younger self was every bit as temperamental and as reckless as he was in the future, so he decided to kill Mystique instead of merely convincing her not to kill Trask. After Magneto diverted a bullet into Mystique's leg, she laid prone on the floor, begging him not to do anything else to her. As Jennifer Lawrence, the actress who played Mystique, acted out the begging scene, she couldn't help but burst into a fit of laughter. Talk about laughing in the face of death, Jennifer.
Peter.
Kirsten Dunst, Spider-Man 2. 2004's Spider-Man 2 saw the relationship between Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Watson become extremely strained. The first Spider-Man movie, which was released 2 years prior in 2002, had come to a climax with Parker telling Watson that they could only ever be friends, in order to protect her from Spider-Man's enemies, but the sequel had them completely estranged from each other. Peter Park did attempt to reconcile quite early in the movie, after watching one of Mary Jane's plays, but by that time she had already got engaged to another man, astronaut John Jameson, who was the son of the Daily Bugle's editor-in-chief, J. Jonah Jameson, and it seemed like Parker had no hope in hell of talking her out of it. After Parker's failed attempt at rekindling his romance with Mary Jane, she flagged the cab and reiterated that she was getting married, but the cab drove past her, giving us another blooper for our list. Of course, later in the movie, after Mary Jane had discovered that Peter Parker was actually Spider-Man and understood his reasons for initially rejecting her, she left Jameson at the altar, and the two went on to end up together in the third movie.
Loki.
Go. I will look after her.
Chris Hemsworth, Thor: The Dark World. As far as Marvel movies go, especially those set in the usually brilliant Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise, Thor: The Dark World was pretty damn terrible. With that in mind, we may as well squeeze as much enjoyment out of it as we possibly can, even if that's in the form of a blooper. The movie saw the onset of a cosmic event called the Convergence, during which the 9 realms came into alignment with each other and the boundaries between them became blurred. Natalie Portman's Jane Foster found herself between worlds during the Convergence, which resulted in Idris Elba's Heimdall being unable to locate her. When Chris Hemsworth's Thor, the movie's titular Asgardian hero, was attempting to explain the intricate details of the event to Foster, something very funny happened.
Well, I believe you are and you weren't.
A lady who appeared to be Hemsworth's assistant appeared on camera with a coffee and a plastic bag full of goodies. The poor lady didn't realize that Hemsworth and Portman were in the middle of filming. She laughed her error off, and Hemsworth certainly seemed to see the funny side of the incident. We're not sure director Alan Taylor would have felt the same way about it, however, but it was definitely hilarious nonetheless.
We moved the humans around like pawns.
Parker Posey, Blade Trinity. You don't see too many serious moments in any movie Ryan Reynolds is starring in, especially when you're talking about the movie in which he played the far from serious Hannibal King. But it really doesn't get more serious than wanting to rip his heart out, because that's what one character in 2004's awful Blade Trinity movie wanted to do to him. We are, of course, referring to the delightfully ruthless Danica Talos, a vampire who was played by Parker Posey. In the movie, it was Talos who had changed King into a vampire prior to the retrovirus curing him of his vampirism, and she really wasn't happy about the fact that he was now spending his time actively hunting her kind as a member of the Night Stalkers team. In this particular scene, Talos was telling her vampire allies that she wished she had ripped King's heart out when she had the chance to earlier, but the take was cut short because her neck made a cracking sound.
Hannibal King. I should have ripped his heart out when I had the chance. Can I do it again? I heard my neck crack.
Posey asked for the opportunity to do the scene again because she heard it crack, but it was so loud that the crack was actually caught on a microphone. We all heard it, Parker.
I've seen things in this house I've never spoken of.
John Paxton, Spider-Man 3. Since the first movie in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy in 2002, James Franco's Harry Osborn blamed the titular hero for his father's death. Norman Osborn, otherwise known as the Green Goblin in the franchise, was killed during a confrontation with the Webbed Wonder, but it was his own doing. When he tried to kill Spidey, the hero jumped out of the way of Osborn's Goblin glider, which resulted in it hitting Osborn himself and piercing his body. In the absence of any knowledge about what really happened, Harry pursued Spider-Man, eventually wearing his father's Green Goblin equipment and becoming the new Goblin in order to do so. He was finally convinced that Spidey wasn't responsible for his father's death, when his butler, Bernard Houseman, played by the late John Paxton, explained to him that the wound on his father's body did indeed come from his own glider, and that he died of his own doing. Paxton, however, couldn't seem to get his words right.
The blade that pierced his body came from his gilder.
Okay, his glider, that's right, glider. That's right. All right, here we go again.
First of all, he called his glider a gilder, and then he said it pierced his heart, when he should have said it pierced his body. The veteran actor found his own errors funny, though, which was very charming to see.